Kalmar Castle is one of Kalmar's biggest tourist attractions. You can go on everything from concerts, Christmas markets, and guided tours. On the guided tours, you can see all the permanent exhibits that tell the castle's dramatic history, to the temporary exhibits with different themes. One example of the permanent exhibits is the women's prison, which is about the old women's prisons from the 1800s and how the female prisoners from the 1400s to the 1800s lived and was punished until they died. Another exhibit called 800 Years on the Castle. Here you can see how the castle has developed over the years. Each room reflects an epoch, an event, or a theme. But it doesn't stop there. You can also see the Johan III Easter dinner. The Grey Hall welcomes you with a set table. Easter 1586. The meal is a reconstruction of the German travel, Samuel Kischer's diary. Kalmar Castle's Christmas market takes usually place at the end of November. The Christmas market is one of Sweden's largest. Here you will find over 120 of the country's best woodworkers. Most of them who works at the Christmas market come from Kalmar, but also from the rest of the country. Of course, you will also find all Christmas food at the market. During the weekend, there are also many other activities. You can go and listen to the Christmas music at the Royal Chapel, or you can go and see different shows how it is related to winter and Christmas time. The entire castle is open, and all the visitors from the whole country is walking on the same floor as many of our greatest king and queens stepped on.
Kalmar Castle has a history that goes far back in time. The castle started as a defensive tower, which had the intention to protect the area from both enemies and pirates. During the Middle Age, the castle was developed to the most powerful defensive compound in Sweden, and mostly because of its strategically location close to the harbor. During the reign of King Magnus, the castle got more towers, and next to the defensive tower, a ring wall was built. Since then, the castle has gradually grown and become the castle it is today. 1397, Denmark, Sweden, at that time including Finland, and Norway was unified through a common monarch and common foreign policy. The union was called Kalmar Union since it was formed during a meeting in Kalmar. The mastermind behind the union was Queen Margareta, and the event was one of the most important political happenings in Scandinavian history. Unfortunately, the union had some troubles, and the countries often fought against each other. A short period, the castle was reigned by Denmark, but it didn't last long until Sweden fought back. The union lasted till the coronation of Gustav Vasa in 1523, when he recaptured the castle. When the Vasa kings reigned, the building got redesigned into the building it is today. Gustav Vasa was king during the Renaissance, and that is why the castle has Renaissance traits.
April 4th, 1611, a war started between Sweden and Denmark. The King of Denmark encircled Kalmar along with his forces only a month later. In the beginning of August the same year, Kalmar Castle started to belong to the Danish people. Christian Somme were responsible for the castle. He was later on accused for betrayal, and the rumor claims that he therefore got a property in Holstein from the Danish king. Soon after, the King of Sweden died and Gustav II Adolf took over. 1613, 3 years after the end of the war, Sweden won the castle back. Most of the castle and its equipment were destroyed, but it recovered very fast and was once again a strong fortification. 1642, one of the castle's halls started to burn. The hall was above the kitchen and was never restored. In the time that followed, plans were made to raise the castle to the ground and build a new one in a more attractive area, but luckily that never happened. 1658, Kalmar dissolved to be a border protection between Sweden and Denmark, which resulted in the loss of the castle's strategical position. As the castle lost its role as defense, the visits from the royal family became fewer and fewer. The castle then got new fields of application. For example, it was used as a government institution for distilled aquavit and as a jail. One of the prisoners were Thomas Leopold. He was sentenced to prison in 1736 because he exercised a small religion within the Christian religion that was not accepted in Sweden. The government institution did not last for a long period. The institution was closed after 7 years, but some parts of the castle was still used as a prison. During King Oscar I's era, a restoration of Kalmar Castle started. Oscar let builders restore the well on the courtyard. Later on, his heir apparent Erik continued the restoration. The prisoners were moved from the castle in 1852, and the government decided to give 80,000 Swedish crowns for the renovation of the exterior. The thorns got new pinnacles, and the interior was also renovated, and the old decoration was restored as well. Ever since, Kalmar Castle have been renovated and maintained, which make it the best kept Renaissance castle in Sweden.
Kalmar Castle, as we previously mentioned, is the most preserved Renaissance castle in the country, but also very mythical. It's told that when Duke Karl in the 15th century attacked the castle, helped by Sigmund's men, Sister Summer was dyed blood red and church bells rang by themselves. When the castle was besieged, the population starved and was eventually forced to eat both dogs and rats. Furthermore, in the king's chamber you find one of the oldest preserved pictures of the castle, in intarsia, placed on the door that leads to the privy and the secret passage. The secret passage leads to the other sections of the castle and was built as an escape route. Moreover, did you know that the prisoners during the Middle Age had to go to the bathroom in pitch black darkness? Or that the prisoner drowned in the Castwell in the middle of the 15th century? To summarize, the castle has a history that goes far back in time. It started as a defense tower and has grown to the powerful building we can see today. Nowadays, the castle has lots of events for tourists, and maybe that is why the castle remains the most preserved Renaissance castle in the country.
Have any fun facts regarding this era?
I should think it's very fun. Maybe it's not the right word, but I think it's very interesting that Gustav Vasa, in fact, landed here when he came from prison in Denmark. He went ashore in Stensø, and then he went to the castle to get some help to get along up again, towards Stockholm. And then later, when he became a king, 1523, a couple of years later, he came here and lived for some years with his first wife, Katarina. And he even came later with his second wife. I think it was 30 years later or something like that. And his sons had been living here for years. Erik the 14th, he lived here before he was a king. He lived here for several years and also built some on the new on the castle. This castle was during this time very, very important. It was the closest to Denmark, so it was really important. Our mightiest house, King Gustav called it.
Which famous persons lived during this era?
Besides, as I mentioned, King Gustav and his sons and daughters, of course, also. He had 5 daughters, not to forget. But during this time, Leonardo da Vinci worked. in Italy mostly, but anyway, and Shakespeare in England. John Dowland, he also is English, but he worked also in Denmark. Christian IV is also a well-known Danish king. He built a lot of houses and castles in Denmark, and he ruled over the southern of what now is Sweden. It was Skåne, Blekinge were Danish. So that's why we call it Kristianstad, by the way, and Christian Nobel also comes from his name. Any others? There were many. There were really many that we know today that lived during this period.
Can you tell that the castle has Renaissance traits?
I should say it mainly because it's so square, it's so big. Because at first they just made a circle tower, but then they made, as you can see here, a very big square tower, and that's what they often did in the Renaissance. They make it bigger. They made it more. They thought more about the architecture than they had done before. Earlier, they built a house here and they built a house there, but then later in the 1400s, they were more. They made a plan first, and then they start building.
Yeah, because it's very beautiful.
It really is.
How was it to live during the Renaissance?
I think it mostly depends on what class you are in. If you're royal or something like that, or you are the maid longest down, the one taking care of the pots,
Yeah, that could
things
be
like
much
that.
fun.
I should think that's a main question.
How was
because
it for the king?
I'm sure it was very, very nice. All the castles are pretty cold, but they had warm clothes, which the poor ones did not, and they had enough to eat. Also there, the poor ones maybe did not have enough to eat, and a good place to live and to sleep.